Good day everyone! Ngayon po ay ating tatalakayin ang typical and atypical development of a child sa Chapter 5. The development of a child usually follows a predictable pattern. There are certain skills and abilities that are observed to gauge a child's development or called developmental milestone. Example of this is sitting, babbling, and following directions. However, each child is unique. With this, not all reach a milestone at the same time, thus the term typical and atypically develop. So, dito nga po, ang child nga po, may predict po natin o may pattern po yung development ng isang child. Pero po, hindi po dito sinasabi na lahat ng bata ay sabay-sabay na magkakaroon ng development o marireach yung milestone sa time frame na iyon. Kaya nga po, meron tayong typical and atypical development na tinatawag. So, a typical development po, it refers to the normal progression where children grow by acquiring knowledge, skills, and behavior called developmental milestone at a certain time frame. Ito pong typical development, ito po yung normal na development ng isang child, ano po, sa mismong time frame. Kung example po ay kung isang bata po ay nakakapagsalita na dapat sa age na 1.5 year, ay dapat po siya nakakapagsalita na dun sa mismong time frame na yun. So, sumunod po ay atypical development, a term used when development does not follow the normal course. More so, a child is developing atypically when he or she reaches a milestone earlier or later than other children on his or her age. So, atypical development po ay kabaligtaran naman po ng typical development. Dito po, meron din pong development pero hindi po doon sa mismong time frame na normal. Ano po, maaari pong ang development po ay maganap earlier or later kung ikukumpara po sa other children. There is no clear way to identify if a child is developing typically or atypically. However, there are three commonly accepted principles of child development that one should look into. So wala nga po tayong tamang basihan pa kung ano po ba yung kung ang isang po bang bata ay nade-develop typically or atypically. Pero may sinusunod po tayong mga principles na maaari po natin tingnan para matukoy po natin yung development progress ng isang bata. Ang una nga po dyan, rate of development differs among children. Dapat po ang isang bata po sa kanyang age ay makapag-develop ng isang milestone na kasabayan po ng ibang bata na ganun din yung age. Pangalawa naman po, development occurs in a relatively orderly process. Dito naman po, may sinusunod po na process yung development. Tulad na lamang po, ang bata po ay natututong munang gumapang bago siya natututong lumakad. Pangatlo po, development takes place gradually. Ang development po ay utay-utay po ang progress at hindi po isang bagsakan lamang. Ano po? So, Chapter 5, Domains of Development. Physical domain. It refers to the development of physical changes such as size and strength. It occurs in both gross and fine motor skills. The development of the senses and uses are also a part of the domain which influenced by nutrition and illness. So, yung development po dito sa physical ay makikita po natin mismo sa appearance ng bata, yung sa physical appearance ng bata. Pangalawa po, cognitive domain, construction of thought process which includes remembering, problem solving, and decision making refers to the cognitive domain. Dito po ay matutukoy po natin ito kung isang bata po ay nakakapag-isip ng ayon sa kanyang age. Pangatlo po, ito po yung language domain. It refers to the process of acquiring language in a consistent order without the need for the explicit teaching from the environment. So, isa pong bata, lalo-lalo na po kung nakapagsalita na ay natututo na tukuyin at gamitin ang mga nararapat na salita sa pagdiskurso po sa iba. At sumunod po ang socio-emotional domain, child's experience, expression, and management of emotions along with the ability to establish positive relationship refers to socio-emotional domain. It includes both intrapersonal and interpersonal progress. So, dito po sa socio-emotional ay nakakapag-socialize na po yung bata at nakakapagpakita na po siya ng emotions. Maaaring siya masaya o malungkot at maaari po na magamit yung emotions na yun kapag socialize niya po sa mga iba niyang kalaro. Yun lamang po at maraming salamat.
Good day everyone! I am here to present Chapter 5 which is a stages in child development. There are 4 stages in child development, which is the infancy, early childhood, middle childhood, and adolescence. There are also 4 domains of development, which is the physical, socio-emotional, language, and cognitive. Now, let's proceed to the infancy. Birth to 2 years old, a critical stage in child development because growth is rapid. It affects the later stages of development. It also called the building block stage. In the table, we can see the domains and the word typical and atypical. The typical refers to those people or individuals who are normally born without disabilities, while in the atypical refers to those individuals born with disabilities. So now, I will give some or 2 examples of activities done by typical child. Sits without support, walks, and begin to run. While the atypical child cannot sit without support or does not walk steadily. In their emotional development domain, the typical child likes to play, shy or afraid of strangers, while the atypical child does not smile or show no affection. In their language domain, the typical child responds to simple requests, try to say words, and say sentences, while in the atypical child does not say a single word and does not speak in sentences. While in their cognitive domain, a atypical child explores things in various ways, uses things correctly, for example, eat with spoon, while on the atypical child does not watch things as they move and does know what to do with common objects. And now let's proceed to the second stage, which is the early childhood, 3 to 8 years old, slow growth but rapid in development. This stage was also called the exploratory and questioning stage, and interaction with other people will help them to shape their development. The physical domains in typical child in early childhood was run well, climbs easily, while in the atypical child is falls down often, needs help in physical activities. In their socio-emotional domains, a atypical child shows affection, takes turns in games, while in the atypical child does not want to play with others and usually withdraw. In their language domain, a typical child follows 2 to 3 step instruction, uses pronouns, while the atypical child has unclear speech and can tell stories accurately. In their cognitive development, the typical child plays make-believe, work with simple toys, while on the atypical child does not play with simple toys or make-believe and loses skills once had. So the continuation of 2 other stages will be discussed by Miss Sheila Ulan. That's all. Thank you.
Good morning. As the continuation of Ms. Buela's discussion about the 2 stages of child development, which is infancy and early childhood, for now, let's see to the other 2 stages, which is middle childhood and adolescence. Middle childhood is 9 to 11 years of age, is a stage that brings various changes in a child's life. Independence is a characteristic that children in this stage asserts. Developing friendships is another milestone that is evident in this stage. children should be given more tasks to develop their sense of responsibility to further develop their growing independence. In this stage, child have changes in their lives. Nagkakaroon na ng pagbabago sa kanilang sarili. Then, one of their characteristics is independence. Nagkakaroon na ng kamalayan ng isang bata. Then, binibigyan na rin sila ng mga gawain and responsibility na makatutulong sa kanilang sarili upang mas mapalago pa ito ng maayos. Then, domains, typical and atypical. Physical domains, under typical, growth spurt may take place, becomes clumsy, increase in appetite. Patuloy na paglaki o patuloy na paglago and pagiging malamyain. Under atypical, has limited mobility. Socio-emotional, forms stronger friendships, becomes aware of body changes due to puberty, nagkakaroon na ng kamalayan ang isang bata na magkakaroon ng pagbabago sa kanyang sarili na due to puberty. Shows more concern about looks. Atypical, has difficulty making and keeping friends. Language, continues to speak clearly, express one's thought articulately, patuloy na nakakapagsalita ng malinaw, at nakakapag-express o nakakapaglabas ng isang opinion or saloobin na maliwanag. Under atypical, has unclear speech, can tell stories articulately. Cognitive domains, increase attention span, sees the view of other people more clearly. Atypical, experience problems with comprehension and attention, unable to keep up with the school's curriculum. Another stages is adolescence. Adolescence is 12 to 18 years of age, is the period where puberty begins. Ito yung tinatawag natin na dito na nagdadalaga ang isang bata. By the end of this stage, most will have complete puberty. The child is now called a teen during this stage. The teen is becoming more vocal about his or her opinions due to the development of a unique personality. Peer pressure, however, will be present, which is why guidance of parents and guardians is very much needed. Ito nga yung stage na tinatawag na teen na buong-buo na isang bata, completely puberty na. Then, kinakailangan na ng parents and guardians ng guidance nila para maging aware ang bata o yung dalaga kung ano ba yung tamang gawin at hindi dapat gawin. Domains, physical, under typical, reaches adult weight and height. Nare-reach na o naaabot na yung tamang tangkad at tamang timbang ng isang bata. Atypical, limited mobility. Socio-emotional domains, becomes interested in opposite sex. Kung ikaw ay babae, interesado ka sa isang lalaki. At kung isa kang lalaki, interesado ka sa isang babae. Begins conflict with parents. Nagkakaroon na ng alitan o hindi magandang pagkakaunawaan between parents and child. Shows for independence from parents. Pinapakita na ng isang bata o ng isang dalaga na kaya na ang kanyang sarili, na hindi niya na kailangan ng kanyang parents para i-guide siya. Atypical, has limited peer connections, may exhibit inappropriate behavior in public. Yung hindi dapat na behavior ay pinapakita niya sa isang public na lugar na hindi dapat naman ginagawa ng nasa ganoong age na or nasa ganoong stage na. Language, typical, continues to speak clearly, expresses one's thought articulately. Yun nga, patuloy na pagsasalita ng maliwanag, patuloy na pag-express o paglalabas ng saloobin o ng isang opinion na maliwanag. Atypical, has unclear speech, can tell stories articulately. Cognitive domain, acquires and use defined work habits, shows concern about the future, and under atypical is below grade level. Behavior that are atypical should be observed keenly and recorded carefully. At times, the recorded observation might just be isolated events with no significant impact on later development. However, they might also be early warning signs of needs. The observed patterns will be useful to confirm if there is such a needed. Yun nga, yung behavior na under atypical is kailangan patuloy na obserbahan at i-record pa rin ng maayos para maging aware kung may dapat bang baguhin o may nabago ba doon sa behavior under atypical. At para magkaroon din ng pattern na maganda at useful kung kinakailangan na may baguhin doon sa behaviors na iyon. And that's all.